Okay, Claire, I want to talk a little bit about human design.
Okay.
What is it in layman terms? Because not a lot of people know about it. So can you share a little bit about human design?
Yeah. So human design, when I started looking into it, really just was a layered version of astrology. There's a few different things that they've brought in. They have the Cabal principles as well as the I Ching, and then they have astrology on that layered in there. So it's really that layered version of looking at yourself through the lens of astrology, but with extra information so that you get to learn about your gifts and learn about the qualities of yourself in which maybe you didn't totally know were qualities you had. But what really interested me in it was really the energetic exchange that it shows with the world. So it's really how our energy is given and received through us in human design.
Love that. In your work with human design, how do you feel like it's most helped people?
Most helped. Okay, so really it's just a affirmation of things that they've already kind of felt into, and it also allows them to discover more about themselves. So maybe things that they've felt but maybe hadn't like fully rooted in, like, I don't know if that's truly who I am. It brings clarity and affirmation around, like, oh, I knew that was there, but I didn't really know what to do with it, and allowing them to see themselves a little bit differently, and as well as seeing other people differently. So really being able to interact with different energy types in a different way because you honor who they are. So, with astrology, you might say like, oh, you're an Aries, knowing you're an Aries, knowing certain things about that, they're about self, all of those kinds of things. But then you layer the energetic exchange on top of that of knowing you're a generator, which means you're a doer energy. So you have this ability to do things for others. So there's this layered piece of it that just allows them to really see themselves more and really honor the people around them more.
Do you find that a lot of people know about human design?
Once I meet them,
Yeah.
that's like, it's like my popcorn talk. Like, I'm like, oh, do you know about your human design?
Yeah.
And who doesn't like to learn about themselves, right?
Right.
And most people are like, no, I haven't ever heard of that. And just allowing them to be like, oh, I'm like, just give me your time. I'll put it in my phone. And then it starts a conversation so naturally around, like, some people I haven't even met. Like, I'll do it for a bartender, like, that I'm just like, I wonder what their design is, just based on like watching them move around. And then I start talking to them naturally about it. And then they're like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Right.
So it's like, for how I see it, is really like a floor plan of like showing me who you are and allowing me to articulate it in a way so that you're able to understand yourself more.
Yeah. I mean, I can relate to that, right? Because I had you read my human design, which I'm such like a knowledge seeker. So of course, before you and I met, I already had like the basics.
Yeah.
But I think what our time together did was affirmed a lot of things for me, but also give me permission to feel the way that I felt about certain things. I know, like, for me, whenever I feel frustrated, I'm like, okay, what is not in alignment with my life right now? And how do I pivot and how do I change? And I think the biggest thing outside of all of that, which I think is great, is it allows me the ability to recognize that energy exchange when I am sitting with other people and just have a little bit more compassion and understanding for maybe what they're going through. And I do think that so many of us are feeling frustrated, or maybe they're feeling like, okay, there has to be something bigger and more than what life is giving me now.
Yeah.
And the human design gives us kind of that path of, okay, this is what you're, based on your date of birth, time and place, right? This is what you were meant to do on this earth, and gives us a little bit more of a guide.
Yeah, I think especially with you being a knowledge seeker, and kind of even the connection in which we had, where it was you came into my field, asked me questions about it, wanted to dive deeper because that's who you are, and did your due diligence on asking around, even with getting references, and then me having the 4 in my design, someone in my network bringing you back to me in a different way allowed for the connection in which we have, which is me honoring like, okay, if I'm not your person, I know whoever is out there is meant to have the energetic exchange with you in that way. And so it was honoring both of our energies of like, if it's not in alignment, it's not in alignment. And I'm trusting that the universe will bring whoever is into my field. And so I think that that's the part too, is like the permission to allow yourself to not overly put yourself in a situation where you're depleting yourself because you're like, I have to say yes.
Right.
And it's like, well, yeah, I have people in my network because I do have a 4 in my design, which is the people person. So I have people in my network that are references that I can give information out about. And I also have people in my network that would give my information back for the people to come back to me. Mm-hmm. And so really getting an alignment around that has been so beneficial for me, even of like really honoring of, if it's not in alignment, if I say no, it's not that I'm letting them down. It's that I'm honoring whoever is meant to say yes to them is out there, and the energy that they'll have together will be better and less depleting than the energy we have.
Sure. Yeah. I love that. And I think, that's kind of how frequency and flow came about, right? Because we had our time together. I'm like, more people need to know about this. And I think for me, I'm in real estate and it's such a like black and white, this is how you build your business. And I've probably for the last 2 years have been talking about, no, actually it's not, there's more ways to build a business. Right. And so for me, it was just, how do I take my passions and things that light me up and the things that I love and really like embed that into my business so that I can attract the people that are like-minded and who I thoroughly enjoy working with. And so that exchange that you're talking about is great for both of us, right? Like they enjoy working with me because we're very similar and we like the same things and our mindset's the same and vice versa. So that's where frequency and flow came about. Cause I'm like, okay, Klaire, thank you for this information, but like, how do we get this out? Right. Yeah. So when you think about the types of people that we want to be at frequency and flow, can you think of some things that like they might be going through right now in their life that we would be able to help them with?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things that it's, if you feel a little lost, like you feel like, there's something on the other side that maybe you feel a little foggy around, that like maybe the light hasn't fully shined in on like, what direction am I meant to go? Who am I meant to connect with? What is this authenticity that I'm meant to move forward with? And honoring like the energetic exchange that you have with people. Say that you are a projector and you're meant to be invited in. If that's the case, a not self theme that you might have is that you're sitting around and you're like, no one's going to invite me into something. Well, what we can help with is helping reframe that of like shining a light into what you're currently doing and showing you ways that we can maybe help you be more inviting so that you are in a light that allows people to invite you into their world. If it comes to being a generator or a manifestor generator, in certain aspects of that, things that light us up, things that we're meant to say yes to are great, but we have to have things that we're meant to respond to. So if we're not in a situation where we're keeping our auras open in a way and being magnetic in our energy and allowing things to flow to us instead of fighting against that current, there's a not self theme that comes along with like the frustration that comes along with, I'm never going to have anybody like bring something to me that I'm meant to respond to. Nothing is ever going to flow past me that I'm meant to grab onto. Well, that piece of that is untrue. That's getting to a place of inauthenticity around who you really are and how you're meant to be. So it's like, yeah, it can be really scary as a generator to just sit back and like let the world come to you. The thing is the things that come to you when you sit in alignment and you have that magnetic energy just have a different weight to them. They just feel satisfactory. You feel satisfaction from like just being so satisfied from what is being brought to you, and you're able to respond to it in an authentic way that's like, yes,
right.
How do I help build this? Right. How do I move forward with this? Light me up,
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Some of the conversations I've had lately are other real estate agents coming to me and saying, hey, like, I need help with accountability, or I'm trying to implement these things in my business and I'm not motivated and I'm having a hard time doing them. And that's my conversation of, well, then they're not meant for you. Right. And so it's kind of breaking that mold of whether you're building a business or you're in a marriage or your friends, whatever dynamic it is, just recognizing that there's a lot of different ways to sit in that dynamic. And again, understanding like you said, what is most in alignment for me. And I will say, since working with you, and obviously the past like 2 to 3 years of my personal journey of just like letting go, you know, and trusting the process, there is a lot of, stress, to your point, right? Of just being like, okay, I'm just going to let what flows flow to me. Still working, you know, and that's, I'm not saying we're not going to work and we're not going to push our businesses forward. But when the business comes in, it just feels so much lighter. And it's just affirmation of like, you are on the right, it's little breadcrumbs, right? Of like, you are on the right path and what you are doing is in alignment. And back to the conversation with other agents who are having a hard time doing the things in their business, or really any business owner, my conversation would be to them is, what are your passions? What are things when you think of like really get you excited? And what are some things that we can do to implement that into your business? I love those conversations, right? Because it can be done.
Yeah.
And that's just a better way of living. We're just happier.
Well, and that's like once you get in alignment, people can see that. So the energy in which you exude feels different even. And it's that piece of like just seeing someone and being like, I don't know what that is, but whatever they're doing in their life, there's something there that like, I want to figure out how to have that. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to go on the same path as them or have the same career they're going to have, or even have the same energetic exchange with the world and be the same design. It just means their energy is magnetic in a way because they're living in alignment in a truth that feels so authentic to them that is undeniable to see around them. And so that is like really being able to be like, okay, I am this energy type, whatever that may be. How can I implement things about self, really getting clear about self so that the world starts to notice who I am.
Yeah.
And the world brings that, like that universe brings that back to you tenfold of just honoring like yourself around that and that's really what like the goal is of this day, is to create knowledge to help you really figure out, what is my design? Who am I? How can I implement some of these gifts in a way that feels so in alignment that is undeniable when people around me, they want what I have to give. And I'm not pouring from an empty cup because I've already filled my cup from self.
Right.
In a way that like I'm holding my boundaries, I'm being authentic, I'm using my voice around my needs. I'm really using my strategy for my design in a way that allows me to be seen the way that I'm meant to be seen.
I love that. Do you feel or do you experience anybody who hesitates like diving into this work because of the consequence of doing that? And what I mean by that is, I mean, you're shaking your life up, right? Which means relationships might look different, friendships might look different, career might look different. And I know different can be uncomfortable for some people. So do you experience that, and how do you walk people through that?
There is difficulty with change. And obviously some of this is big change because some of this you've been living out of alignment or been conditioned by your environments in a way that you might be living as one energy type because you were conditioned that way from environments you grew up in, but you're actually a completely different energy type. And you've been depleting your batteries in a way that wasn't meant for you this whole time because you thought you were something else or needed to be something else. And so I think in some ways it is very difficult for people to want to dive into some of this because they're like, whoa, this is really overwhelming. There's a lot of information here. And what I would say for those people is really getting to like start small. As much as information we're going to give you with frequency and flow and allow you the space to see yourself, starting small with just little tweaks in your life of getting into alignment of who you are allows you to see the change in yourself first and then start to see the change in your environment. Any of the work you do when it comes to self-work, there's a chance that all the things will change.
Yeah.
Your career, your relationships, your partnerships, all of it. That doesn't mean that we're not meant to, in that way of like, it doesn't have to be like speeding down the road with no brakes. It just has to be something that feels like, okay, I can bite this much off today. And I know biting this much off today, as long as I continue to make movement forward with just those little pieces, at some point, the whole pie will be there. And the alignment will feel so good. And you will know the struggles that it's taken you to get there.
Yeah.
But it also is allowing you this lens that just shifts, that you're like, so much expansion is on the other side.
Right. Right.
And that's really like the surrender of like surrendering and trusting into the unknown. We're not controlling the outcome and using this as like, oh, I'm a generator, so this is just who I am, so I get to say no to you because I want to. That's not the permission we're giving anyone in this. The permission we're giving you is to really sit with yourself and be like, where do I have leaks in my life that I'm allowing things in or out of my life that are depleting me, that aren't allowing me to show up in other ways in other parts of my life? That could be for friendships, that could be for partners, that could be for your children, that could be for your career. Whatever those leaks are, that's what we want to try and stop, is like starting to fill those leaks for you to be able to see it differently.
Yeah. I love that. And I think too, there's a self-love that comes with this, right? Of knowing that you're worth whatever change that you're going to make. Because sometimes they're not easy changes, right? And having to evaluate things in your business or your relationship or your friendship, or like you said, maybe how you've just been responding to the whole world. But just knowing that whatever it is, you're making the best decision at that time with the information that you have, because you love yourself and you know that you're worth it, and you do want to have that expansion and feel more in alignment.
Yeah. So. And I think like what comes to mind is like, even, you know, when I've talked to you about your design, the 5 in your design wants to save the day or be the fixer. And just the conversations we had around that, and how you were able to look back on things that you've done to shift some of those things already, but even just little more tweaks that like just honor you just a little bit more, have felt so authentic to you, and the conversations we've had around that, and just being like, okay, even though I can do this, it doesn't mean that I'm meant to for everyone. And that I need to honor when I feel the ping of like, okay, I need to step in, or this person I've honored and asked permission of like, can I help with the solution? I have it, because that is one of your gifts, of being able to see it from a perspective where you're going to have a solution for them. Allows them to really fully be able to receive it into their field, instead of just giving it and you being like, well, I gave it and now I feel depleted, and then they didn't even receive it. So how does that even play into our dynamic of our relationship? Right. And so those are the things too that like we can help with, really working through some of those kinks of like just making those little tweaks. It doesn't have to be a big shift. Sure. There are going to be some big shifts. There's going to be some big openings that come from this. That's just how human design is. Right. But just like I started at the beginning with how human design is, it's a layered thing. It's layered on top of each other, of different systems that all come together and work in a certain way to create who you are, who you chose to be. Right. Because we chose this. We chose this design. I mean, the cool thing about one of the designs is, as a reflector, you are a reflector in every lifetime. You don't ever shift that. They are the only energy type that is like that. So they picked it one time and now they get it forever. And so the cool part of that is like, okay, well, yeah, this lifetime we picked this design. The next one we get to pick a different one. But how can I use my strengths and my weaknesses in this design, in this lifetime, to curate the life in which I'm meant to, on the path, so that I can get in the highest frequency in which I'm meant to. Yeah. Love that. Okay. So let's talk about frequency and flow. Okay. May 11th from 10 to 4 in Scottsdale. Yes.
some things that we think are important for people to know?
The more open you can come that day, really just being open to receiving, being open to the knowledge in which we have put together for them. I think that that's like the biggest thing that we would ask for anyone that wants to come to this. You know, I think we're going to get a wide range of people who are interested in multitude of things. Obviously our networks and who we're connected to, there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of differences. But that allows us the space to have the opportunity to have a lot of different people within the same space so that people can really feel like, okay, this isn't just directed at one thing or over another. It's not just males or females. It's not just real estate agents. It's anyone who even is just walking the path of a corporate job or has a small business or just is thinking about like a business that they want to start and how we can help cultivate their gifts in that. So it's really just being open to community, being open to learning, being open to connecting in a different way that maybe you haven't thought of before.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, just like a gentle reminder that if we want something different, we have to do something different, right? And so just raising your hand to put yourself in a room full of people who you have no idea are going to be there, and knowing that you're in that room for a reason with those people. And just like you said, showing up and being open to, I mean, I do that, you do that. And every single time I do that, there's a connection that I walk away with that I'm like, had I not shown up, I wouldn't have ever met that person, you know? And again, going back to everything happens for a reason. So whoever is in that room, there's a reason why they're there.
Yeah. And I think that that's the beauty of it too, of like showing up in a room that you don't know people. We've talked about that, especially with all our conditioning that we have. Sometimes the easiest way to unlearn some of that is just show up with no one on your side.
Yeah.
It allows you to completely submerge yourself in the space, be vulnerable, be open, willing to know that whatever is in that room is meant for you. You said yes for a reason, just like the person next to you. And maybe there's something there. I mean, there's that piece of it that I know there's stuff there because I've been there.
Right.
We've done it. Like it's a thing. And that's really, you know, we've been in multiple rooms together. We didn't fully connect in those rooms, but we connected outside of those rooms. But how we maybe not even been in those fields together, each of us saying yes to whoever we were saying yes to go into that room, it wouldn't have brought us together in this way for us to then bring this out to people.
Right. Love that. Love that example. Anything else you can think of that we need to cover?
The logistics of the day, like we talked about a little bit, are just going to be really around education in the morning, really getting settled into talking about human design more, diving in more, what exactly it is, getting our hands dirty a little bit with some knowledge stuff, breaking out for lunch and connecting with people, which I think is really important. And then the afternoon is kind of shaking it up. Like we're going to shake it up and have it be more interactive and allow you the space to talk about things in a way that you can connect, build, and just enjoy the time that we have together. And then really just closing out that ceremony, I think, would be the best way to describe the day.
Yeah.
The feelings you'll be left with, you know, there's a multitude.
Yeah. And I think the beautiful thing about having you and I in the room is just the balance between the feelings and the business. And, you know, our goal is ultimately, like you said, to have people walk away with things that they can apply.
Yeah.
Big, small, whatever you take away from that. But having sessions with you and I of saying, okay, these are some things that you're feeling in your life. What are some small changes that we can help you make so that you feel more in alignment and more satisfied? So like you said, very interactive.
Yeah.
And the whole idea, I love bringing communities together and people together. So
Same.
the ability to do that is going to be great.
Well, yeah, and then us being able to create the community on the back end. So yes, we're having this one day event, but there's still things that we have in the pipeline that are coming afterwards that will build off of what we're going to be doing in that day, which we're even more excited about because yes, one day is great. And this is going to be an amazing event for people to come to and get their feet wet and really dig into some stuff and take some key pieces away. But there's also opportunity on the other end for us to continue working with people that have come to this event, and that's stuff that really, we really enjoy and want to build more of that community on the back end of keeping people connected in that way.
Love that. Well, I'm excited.
I am too.
May 11th.
May 11th at the Portal in Arizona.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you.